Hello there, and a very warm welcome. Whether you're listening in the quiet hours of the morning or settling in for the night, I'm so glad you're here. I often wonder where and at what time these stories find you. So if you feel like sharing in the comments, I would be delighted to know where in the world you're watching from. Tonight, we step away from the world of men and into a place of quiet majesty and patient care. We will spend a day in a sanctuary for retired and rescued magical beasts, learning the secrets not of taming, but of understanding. So, find a comfortable position, take a slow, deep breath, and let us begin. The day does not begin with the sharp, cheerful crow of a rooster. In this valley, nestled between forgotten mountains, the morning announces itself with a different sound, a sound far older and more profound. It begins with a sigh. It is a deep, slow, raspy sound, like the turning of a great, ancient, dusty page. It is a sound heavy with the weight of centuries, thick with the texture of old worn feathers and the creak of arthritic leonine joints. The sigh emanates from the largest of the enclosures, the one perched on the highest rocky outcrop, and it is the sound of an old griffin stirring from his sleep. This feathered exhalation is the only alarm clock our trainer needs. In a small Spartan cottage built against the sturdy stone wall of the sanctuary, the trainer begins to wake. Let's call him Elias. He is not a young man. His face is a kind and patient map of wrinkles, etched by years of sun and wind and the quiet, constant focus of his work. His hands are gnarled and calloused, but his movements are gentle and deliberate, the movements of a man who has learned that patience is a more effective tool than force. He swings his legs over the side of his simple, narrow cot, the straw-stuffed mattress rustling softly beneath him. The room is humble, a testament to a life of purpose rather than possession. There is the cot, a single wooden chair, and a sturdy workbench that takes up most of the space. This bench is his laboratory, his workshop, and his pharmacy all rolled into one. It is covered not with scrolls of great magic or weapons of war, but with the tools of a caretaker. There are coils of thick leather stripping, waiting to be mended into harnesses. There are needles as thick as a man's thumb, used for stitching tears in great leathery wings. There are stone mortars and pestles, still holding the faint, dusty scent of the herbs that were ground in them the night before. Small, carefully labeled clay pots are filled with various poultices and salves, one for soothing aching joints, another for treating scale rot, a third for encouraging feather growth. A single large window looks out from the cottage, its glass slightly warped and imperfect. It frames a view of the sanctuary's paddocks, which are currently blanketed in a thick, cool, white morning mist, giving the entire landscape a soft, dreamlike quality. As Elias stands and stretches, the first sensory impressions of the day greet him. The air is cool and damp, carrying the clean, earthy smell of the morning mist and the faint, sweet scent of dew on the grass. But woven through this is the unique perfume of the sanctuary itself. It is a complex and layered aroma. The strongest note is the dry, fragrant scent of the herbs that hang in great, dusty bunches from the cottage rafters. Lavender for calming, comfrey for mending, and a dozen other strange, magical plants with names known only to him. Beneath that is the rich, comforting smell of old leather, a scent of saddles and harnesses and well-worn gloves. And under it all, the bass note, the faint but pervasive musky scent of the beasts themselves. It is a wild, primal animal smell, of feathers and fur, of warm breath and powerful bodies. It is a scent that has seeped into the very wood of the cottage, into his clothes, into his skin. To an outsider, it might be overwhelming, even unpleasant. But to Elias, it is simply the smell of his life. It is the smell of home. He moves with a quiet, practiced economy, his routine as ingrained as the lines on his face. He pulls on a pair of sturdy leather breeches and a simple homespun tunic. He does not bother with boots just yet. The feeling of the cool stone floor on his bare feet is a pleasant way to wake up fully. He lights a small magical lantern, a jar containing a single softly glowing will-o'-the-wisp that he befriended years ago. And its gentle blue-white light pushes back the last of the pre-dawn shadows. He fills a small tin kettle with water and places it on a hook over the embers of last night's fire. As he waits for the water to warm for his morning tea, he stands by the window, looking out into the mist. He cannot see the beasts yet, but he knows they are there. He can feel their presence, a collection of great, ancient, and often wounded souls, all sleeping peacefully under his quiet, watchful care. The mood in the small cottage is not one of loneliness, but of solitude. It is the quiet, purposeful peace of a man who has found his place in the world, a man whose work is not a job, but a calling. The feathered sigh of the old griffin was the first note of the morning symphony, and now, as the kettle begins to whistle its own cheerful, steaming song, the conductor is ready to begin. With a steaming, fragrant mug of herbal tea warming his hands, Elias steps out of his small cottage and into the cool, misty morning. This is his favorite part of the day, the first walk, a slow, observational patrol through his kingdom of sleeping giants and quiet legends. The air is still and silent, save for the crunch of his own boots on the gravel path and the distant, mournful cry of a marsh bird. The mist is a soft, gray blanket, muffling the world and lending an air of mystery and revelation to the familiar landscape. As he walks, the enclosures emerge slowly from the shifting vapors, each one a unique and carefully crafted habitat for its resident. The first stop is always the highest point of the sanctuary, a great, towering crag of granite that Elias calls the Eyrie. A winding stone path, slick with morning dew, leads up to a wide, flat ledge. This is the domain of Kale, the old griffin. Kale is fully awake now, perched on the very edge of the rock, his great eagle head surveying the misty valley below. He is a magnificent, if somewhat dilapidated sight. His lion's body is as large as an ox, his tawny fur matted and scarred. His eagle wings, which once carried him through the high, thin air of battle, are now slightly tattered at the edges, and one of them droops just a little, a permanent reminder of an old injury. As Elias approaches, Kale turns his great sharp-beaked head. His golden eyes, as keen as ever, fix on the trainer. He does not squawk or roar. He simply gives a low, rumbling sound deep in his chest, a sound halfway between a lion's purr and the grinding of stones. It is his morning greeting. Elias doesn't just see a griffin, he reads him. He notices the way Kale is holding his weight, favoring his left forepaw slightly. The arthritis must be acting up again. He notes the slight, almost imperceptible droop of his wings, a sign of weariness. He sees the slow, rhythmic pulse of the great throat, a sign of contentment. Elias raises his mug in a silent toast. "Good morning, old friend," he murmurs, his voice a low, respectful rumble. "The mist is thick today." The griffin responds with another low purr and turns his gaze back to the valley. The roll call has begun. Leaving the eyrie, Elias follows the path as it slopes downward into a wide, grassy, fenced-in paddock. As the mist begins to thin under the gentle persuasion of the rising sun, the occupants of this enclosure become visible. It is a small herd of hippogriffs, 3 of them, their eagle heads and front talons seamlessly blending into the powerful hindquarters of a horse. They are grazing peacefully, their sharp beaks tearing at the damp, sweet grass. These are not the proud, fierce mounts of kings and knights. These are rescued animals. One is missing a few feathers from her wing, a result of a run-in with a poacher's trap. Another has a slight limp, a souvenir from a poorly managed royal stable. They are the cast-offs, the broken toys of the rich and powerful, and here they have found a place to simply be. Elias leans against the fence, sipping his tea, and watches them. He is not counting heads. He is observing their state of being. He listens to the soft, tearing sound of their grazing. He watches the gentle, contented swish of their long, horse-like tails. He notices the way the lead mare, a feisty creature named Sky Shadow, occasionally lifts her head, her ear twitching in his direction, a small, subtle acknowledgement of his presence. She is checking in with him, just as he is checking in with her. He sees that the youngest of the herd, a skittish male named Nimbus, is keeping a safe distance, his body language still tense and wary. Elias makes a mental note. Spend some extra time with Nimbus today, perhaps with a particularly shiny apple. It is a silent conversation, a language of posture and distance, a quiet understanding between caretaker and herd. The final stop on his morning patrol is the most ethereal. At the far end of the sanctuary, nestled under a copse of ancient weeping willows, is a shaded grove surrounded by a low stone wall. The air here is always cooler, and the mist seems to cling to this place longer than anywhere else. This is the home of the Blink Dog Pack. As he approaches, there is nothing to see but the mist swirling between the dark, gnarled trunks of the willow trees. But he can feel them. It is a faint, psychic pressure, a feeling like a dozen pairs of unseen eyes watching him. He stops at the low wall and waits patiently. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the mist begins to coalesce. Forms begin to appear, their outlines wavering and indistinct at first, like heat haze on a summer's day. They are large, gray, hound-like creatures, their bodies seemingly woven from the mist itself. These are the Blink Dogs, creatures who can teleport or blink short distances, making them almost impossible to track or contain. The low stone wall is not a physical barrier for them. It is a suggestion, a boundary they have agreed to respect. Elias doesn't look for the dogs themselves. He looks for the way they manifest. The pack's alpha, an old grizzled dog with one milky white eye, materializes directly in front of him, his form solidifying into a clear, sharp image. He gives a silent, psychic nod, a feeling of warm fur and respectful acknowledgement that appears directly in Elias's mind. Other, younger dogs remain half-formed in the mist, their outlines flickering and unstable, a sign of youthful, playful energy. One, however, remains almost completely invisible, its presence indicated only by a slight, agitated shimmer in the air near the back of the grove. Elias reads this as well. It is a sign of a minor dispute within the pack, a disagreement over a choice bit of shadow or a particularly comfortable patch of moss. He will have to mediate later, not with words, but with a calming projection of peaceful intent. His walk is complete. The roll call is done. He has greeted the proud, arthritic warrior, the broken, peaceful herd, and the ethereal, psychic pack. He has not spoken more than a handful of words aloud, but he has had 3 profound and detailed conversations. He has read the language of the body, the language of distance, the language of the mind. He turns back towards his cottage, the empty mug now cool in his hand. The mist is finally burning away, revealing the sanctuary in its full, quiet glory. The day has been assessed. The needs of his charges have been noted, and the work can now truly begin. It is a slow, quiet, and deeply personal way to start the day. A walk among living legends. And Elias wouldn't have it any other way. Returning to the cottage, Elias sets his empty mug on the workbench and ties on a heavy oilskin apron. The quiet, observational part of his morning is over. Now the physical, sensory work begins. It is time to prepare breakfast for the residents of the sanctuary, and this is a task far more complex than simply scooping grain from a sack. It is a carefully orchestrated culinary ritual, a bespoke catering service for a clientele with very specific and very strange dietary needs. The sanctuary's larder is not a single room, but a series of cool, dark, stone-lined cellars beneath the cottage, each with its own unique climate and aroma. Elias begins in the river room, a damp, chilly cellar where a small, diverted stream flows through a series of shallow stone troughs. This is where he keeps the fish for Kael, the old griffin. He pulls a wide net through the cool, clear water, bringing up a writhing silver catch of river trout. He selects 3 of the largest, plumpest fish, their scales shimmering in the dim light of his wisp lantern. He works with a quiet, practiced efficiency at a large stone gutting tingle. The sound is wet and precise, the scrape of the scaling knife against the slick skin, the soft, fleshy tear as he cleans the fish, the sharp, definitive thwack of his cleaver as he removes the heads and tails. This is not a gruesome process, it is a respectful one. He is preparing a meal for a noble and ancient creature, and he does so with a craftsman's care. Once the fish are cleaned, he takes a small, heavy stone mortar from a shelf. Inside is a fine, grayish powder. This is his special supplement for Kael's arthritis, a mixture of finely ground dragon bone dust, a rare and precious ingredient gifted to him years ago, and the powdered shells of river mussels. He sprinkles a generous pinch of this powder over the fresh, pink flesh of the fish. The powder clings to the moisture, a dusty, magical seasoning that will soothe the old warrior's aching joints. The sound of the powder falling on the fish is almost silent, a soft, dry whisper of care. Next, he moves to the earth room, a cellar that smells of rich, loamy soil and living things. The walls are lined with large wooden bins filled with dark, damp earth. This is the domain of the Hippogriff's favorite delicacy. Elias plunges his hands deep into the cool, soft earth of one of the bins, feeling around for his quarry. His fingers close around something soft and wriggling. He pulls his hand out, revealing a handful of fat, pale, squirming grubs. They are plump and healthy, a sign of a well-tended grub farm. He gathers a large bucketful of these, the soft, collective squirming making a faint rustling sound in the quiet cellar. He then moves to a large barrel filled with oats. These are not ordinary oats. They are sun-kissed oats, grown in a secret, magically warmed valley, and they shimmer with a faint, golden light. He scoops several measures of these enchanted oats into a large feeding trough, the sound like a dry, gentle waterfall. Finally, he upends the bucket of grubs into the oats. The grubs immediately begin to burrow into the golden grain, their pale bodies a stark contrast to the shimmering oats. The combination of the rich, earthy grubs and the light, sweet oats is a perfectly balanced meal for a hippogriff, providing both the protein they need for their avian side and the carbohydrates for their equine half. The most peculiar preparation is saved for last. He enters the mist room, a cellar that is unnervingly cold and silent. There is nothing stored on the shelves here. In the center of the room, on a large, flat obsidian slab, lies a single, large cut of what looks like nothing. It is a strange, shimmering, almost invisible piece of meat, a cutlet of pure ectoplasm harvested from a benign spirit that passed through the valley. This is the sustenance for the blink dog pack. Their physical bodies require little nourishment, but their psychic abilities, their very essence, must be fed. Elias does not cut this meat. He works with sense. On a shelf by the door are a series of small, stoppered clay jars. Each one contains a potent distilled scent. He uncorks one labeled Fear of Rabbit, another labeled Joy of the Hunt, and a third labeled Comfort of the Den. Using a long glass dropper, he carefully places a single drop from each onto the ethereal meat. As each drop touches the shimmering surface, it does not pool or run. It is absorbed instantly, and the meat itself seems to pulse with a faint, colored light. A flash of white for the fear, a flash of red for the joy, a flash of warm brown for the comfort. There is a soft, almost inaudible hiss as each scent is absorbed, the sound of a thought being consumed. This scent-infused meal will not fill their stomachs, but it will nourish their spirits. reinforcing the core emotional concepts that define their existence as a pack. With all the meals prepared, he loads them onto a sturdy wooden wheelbarrow, the tray of powdered fish, the trough of grubs and oats, and the faintly glowing slab of ethereal meat. The final part of the process is the delivery, which is as much a ritual as the preparation. He pushes the wheelbarrow out into the now sunlit sanctuary, the single wheel leaving a dark track in the dewy grass. Each delivery is different. For Kyle, he simply places the tray of fish on the high ledge of the eyrie. The old griffin gives a nod of acknowledgement and then falls upon his meal with a gusto that belies his age, the sound of snapping fish bones echoing down into the valley. For the hippogriffs, he slides the trough into their paddock. They approach cautiously at first, and then begin to eat with a noisy, happy enthusiasm, their sharp beaks picking out the wriggling grubs with surprising delicacy. For the blink dogs, the delivery is a silent offering. He places the shimmering, scent-infused meat on a flat stone just inside their grove. He does not see them eat. He simply turns and walks away. When he glances back a few moments later, the slab is gone, consumed without a trace, leaving only a faint, lingering feeling of contentment in the air. The breakfast service is complete. It was a slow, meditative, and deeply personal process. Each meal was tailored not just to the species, but to the individual needs of the creatures in his care. It was an act of understanding, an expression of empathy, a silent conversation conducted through the language of food. And as Elias wheels the now empty barrow back to his cottage, he feels the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. His charges are fed, their bodies and spirits nourished for the day ahead. And that, for a magical beast trainer, is the only morning rush he will ever need. With breakfast delivered and the sanctuary settled into a comfortable, digestive quiet, Elias turns his attention to the more intimate aspects of his duties. Some of the younger, healthier beasts are content with their autonomy, but the older residents require a more hands-on approach, and none more so than Kyle, the old griffin. Elias gathers his grooming tools, a collection of brushes, combs, and pots of balm that he keeps in a worn leather satchel. He then begins the slow, deliberate climb up the stone path to the eyrie. This is an act that requires absolute trust, not just from the griffin, but from him as well. Entering the enclosure of a creature that could snap a man in two with a single bite of its beak is not something one does lightly. But the relationship between Elias and Kyle is built on a foundation of years of quiet, consistent care. It is a trust that has been earned, not demanded. As he reaches the wide, flat ledge, Kyle has finished his meal of fish and is now preening his great golden-brown feathers, his sharp beak working gently through the plumage. He pauses his preening as Elias approaches and turns his head, his intelligent golden eyes watching the man's every move. Elias does not approach him directly. He first walks to the edge of the ledge and sits down, his legs dangling over the precipice, gazing out at the valley below. He is communicating with his body language, showing Kyle that he is not a threat, that he is calm, and that he is entering the griffin's space with respect. For several long minutes they sit in a companionable silence, two old friends sharing a morning view. Finally, Kyle lets out a low, soft rumble, a sound of invitation. The grooming may now begin. Elias rises and approaches the griffin, not from the front where the beak and talons are, but from the side, near the massive leonine hindquarters. "All right, old soldier," Elias murmurs, his voice a low, soothing whisper. "Let's see about getting some of these tangles out." The ritual begins with the lion's body. Elias uses a wide, sturdy brush with stiff iron bristles, a tool more akin to a currycomb used for horses. He starts at the griffin's powerful haunches, working the brush through the thick, tawny fur. The fur is coarse and dense, filled with the dust of the mountains and the fine, gritty sand of Kyle's rocky perch. The sound is a dry, rhythmic, scraping rasp as the brush works its way through the tangled mats. With each firm, steady stroke, clouds of dust rise into the air, shimmering in the morning sunlight. Kyle stands perfectly still, his body leaning slightly into the pressure of the brush, a sign of his enjoyment. Elias works his way slowly up the griffin's back, his movements methodical and unhurried. He knows every inch of this creature's body, every old scar, every sensitive spot. He works around the great muscular shoulders where the wings meet the body, a complex juncture of feather and fur. As he brushes, his free hand follows behind the brush, smoothing down the fur, feeling for any unusual lumps, ticks, or skin irritations. This is not just about making the griffin look presentable. It is a thorough health check, a tactile examination of the great beast's well-being. Once the lion's body is groomed, Elias switches tools. He puts away the coarse iron brush and takes out a much finer, softer one, its bristles made from the downy feathers of a snow goose. This is for the eagle half of Kyle, for the delicate and majestic plumage of his head, neck, and wings. He starts with the great ruff of feathers around Kyle's neck, each one as long as his forearm. He brushes with a gentle, downward motion, following the natural lay of the feathers. The feel of them is extraordinary. Some are still strong and glossy, with the resilience of new growth, but others are brittle with age, their edges frayed, their colors slightly faded. He must be careful not to pull or break them. He is not just grooming an animal, he is tending to a living antique, a relic from a bygone age. The most intimate part of the grooming is the head. Kyle, with a great sigh of contentment, lowers his massive eagle head, resting his beak gently on the ground, granting Elias full access. This is the ultimate act of vulnerability. Elias uses his fingers to gently massage the base of the great feathery tufts behind Kyle's ears, a spot he knows the griffin cannot reach himself. The low, rumbling purr from Kyle's chest intensifies, a sound so deep that Elias can feel it vibrating through the stone floor beneath his feet. It is the sound of pure, unadulterated bliss. While grooming the head, Elias performs a careful inspection. He checks the clarity of the golden eyes.
He examines the sharp, curved beak for any cracks or chips. He gently probes the feathers for any sign of mites, those tiny, persistent parasites that can cause so much irritation. Today, he finds a small cluster of them near the base of Kael's neck. He makes a soft, clucking sound of disapproval. "Ah, we've got some visitors, have we?" he says quietly. He sets down his brush and takes a small clay pot from his satchel. It contains a thick, greasy, and strongly aromatic balm, made from crushed cedar and a special sticky sap. He scoops a small amount onto his fingertips and works it carefully into the base of the feathers, smothering the tiny pests. The balm has a strong, clean, medicinal smell that momentarily overwhelms the musky scent of the griffin. Kael does not flinch. He knows this smell, and he knows the relief it brings. The final part of the ritual is attending to the old warrior's chronic ailments. Elias moves to the griffin's left shoulder, the one that always droops slightly. He places his hands on the massive joint, feeling the warmth of the inflammation beneath the fur and feathers. He takes another pot from his satchel, this one containing a thick, green, cooling poultice made from comfrey root and winter lichen. He spreads a thick layer of the soothing balm over the entire joint, his hands moving in slow, circular motions. He can feel the great muscles beneath his fingers twitch and then relax, surrendering to the gentle, healing touch. "There now," Elias whispers, "that should see you through the day." The grooming is complete. Elias gathers his tools and gives the griffin one last affectionate pat on his massive furry back. Kael lifts his great head, turns and gently, so gently, nudges Elias's shoulder with the side of his beak. It is a gesture of thanks, a quiet moment of affection between two old souls. Elias smiles, a warm, deep smile that reaches his eyes. "You're welcome, my friend," he says. He then turns and walks away, leaving the old griffin to bask in the warm morning sun, feeling clean, comfortable, and cared for. The ritual was not about dominance or control. It was an exchange. Elias gave his time, his skill, and his compassion. And in return, Kael gave him his trust, a gift more precious than any king's ransom.
Leaving the sun-drenched heights of the Eyrie behind, Elias makes his way to the opposite end of the sanctuary, to a place where the light is dim and the air is perpetually cool. He steps into the shaded grove of the weeping willows, a place that always feels otherworldly, as if it exists slightly out of sync with the rest of the valley. This is the home of the Blink Dog Pack, and interacting with them requires a completely different set of skills, a shift from the physical and tactile to the mental and ethereal. The grove is quiet, but it is not empty. As Elias steps past the low stone wall that marks its boundary, he feels it immediately. The subtle psychic pressure of being observed by a dozen minds at once. He closes his eyes for a moment, taking a slow, deep breath, and opens his own mind. This is not a magical trick or a grand feat of wizardry. For Elias, it is simply a form of listening, a deep, practiced empathy that allows him to tune in to the strange, silent frequency of the pack. He does not shout or call out. Voice commands are useless here. They are a crude and clumsy form of communication for creatures who converse in pure thought. Instead, he projects a simple, clear feeling, one of calm, peaceful intention. He is a friend. He means no harm. He is simply here. As his own mental voice settles, the pack begins to respond. The mist, which always hangs thick and low in this grove, begins to shimmer and coalesce. Shapes begin to form, their outlines wavering like reflections in disturbed water. These are the blink dogs, their physical forms woven from the very fabric of the mist and shadows. The first to fully materialize is the pack's alpha, an old, grizzled dog Elias calls Ghost. Ghost's form solidifies a few feet in front of Elias, sharp and clear. He is a large, lean gray hound, his fur the color of storm clouds, his one good eye a deep, intelligent amber. His other eye is a milky, blind orb, the result of a long-ago skirmish with a territorial manticore. Ghost does not bark or wag his tail. He communicates by sending a direct, unfiltered thought image into Elias's mind. It is not a word, but a complex bundle of sensations. Elias receives it as a feeling of warm, sun-drenched rock, the scent of respectful greeting, and a sense of deep, abiding loyalty. It is the pack's formal welcome. Elias sends back a feeling of his own, the image of an open, friendly hand, and a sense of quiet gratitude. The conversation has begun. Now, Elias turns his attention to the reason for his visit. During his morning roll call, he had sensed a flicker of discord, a small, agitated knot in the pack's collective consciousness. He gently probes this feeling, sending out a mental query that feels like a soft, inquisitive hum. He is not demanding an answer. He is simply offering to listen. The response comes not from Ghost, but from two younger members of the pack. Their forms flicker into a slightly more solid nearby. Elias knows them as Echo and Shade. Their thoughts are less disciplined than Ghost's, a chaotic jumble of feelings and images that tumble into his mind. From Echo, he gets a strong sense of possessiveness, the image of a particular patch of moss at the base of the largest willow tree, a spot that catches the dappled morning light just so. He also receives a feeling of indignation, a sense of mine that is as clear as any shouted word. From Shade, the feelings are different. He receives a sense of playful annoyance, a feeling of being wronged, and the strong, stubborn image of himself already lying on that very patch of moss. He also gets a fleeting, almost mischievous scent, the smell of Echo's favorite chewing root, which Shade had blinked to the other side of the grove a few moments earlier. Elias pieces it all together. It is a classic, timeless dispute, the kind that plays out in every family and community, human or otherwise. It is a squabble over a favorite chair, a territorial disagreement born of youthful pride and a touch of mischief. This is the core of his work as their trainer. He is not teaching them to sit or stay. He is acting as a mediator, a counselor, a kind of social harmony guru for a pack of telepathic, teleporting canines. His first step
is to soothe the agitated feelings. He projects a broad, calming thought, one that feels like the cool, smooth surface of a river stone, and smells like damp, peaceful earth. He directs this feeling towards both echo and shade, a mental balm to take the sharp edges off their annoyance. Next, he needs to introduce a sense of perspective. He sends a gentle image to Echo, a picture of the sun moving across the sky, showing how the dappled light will fall on many different patches of moss throughout the day. The message is simple. This spot is special now, but soon another spot will be just as special. There is enough light for everyone. To shade, he sends a different kind of image. He projects the feeling of the pack, the sense of warmth and safety that comes together. He follows this with a faint, questioning scent image, the smell of loneliness, of being cold and outside the circle of the pack. The message is a gentle reminder. Is this small victory, this single patch of moss, worth creating disharmony? Is the prank still funny if it makes your packmate unhappy? The two young dogs receive his thoughts. Their physical forms waver, a sign of their internal conflict. For a long moment, there is a silent psychic standoff. Then, slowly, Shade's form dissolves completely, and a moment later, he materializes on the other side of the grove. From his new position, he sends out a feeling not of defeat, but of grudging acceptance, tinged with a lingering sense of playful mischief. A moment later, Echo, her sense of indignation satisfied, walks over to the coveted patch of moss, circles it twice, and lies down with a contented sigh, her form becoming solid and peaceful. The dispute is over. Harmony has been restored. Elias sends a final thought to the entire pack, an image of all of them resting peacefully in the grove, a feeling of collective well-being and security. Ghost, who has been watching the entire exchange with a wise, patient silence, sends one last thought to Elias. It is a simple, profound image, a mental picture of himself, surrounded by a soft, warm, protective light. It is the pack's highest compliment. It is their way of saying, "You are one of us. You are a part of our pack." Elias gives a small, genuine smile. He has not spoken a word, nor has he heard one. But he has just navigated a complex social negotiation, quelled a rising conflict, and reinforced the bonds of the community. He turns and quietly leaves the grove, the cool mist swirling in to fill the space where he stood. The psychic pressure at his back is gone, replaced by a feeling of calm, settled peace. The lessons in telepathy are complete for the day, a successful exercise in the quiet, invisible art of fostering social harmony. After the ethereal mental gymnastics of the Blink Dog Grove, Elias shifts his focus back to the physical world, to a problem that requires not telepathy, but an almost infinite supply of patience. He makes his way to the wide, grassy paddock of the Hippogriffs. The two older members of the small herd, Sky Shadow and her mate, are grazing peacefully, accustomed to his presence. But the third, a young male named Nimbus, stands apart, his body a tense portrait of fear and uncertainty. Nimbus is a recent arrival at the sanctuary. He was rescued from a cruel and impatient nobleman who had tried to break him for riding, using whips and harsh commands.
The attempt had failed, leaving Nimbus not broken, but shattered. He is terrified of humanoids, his past trauma a deep, invisible wound. Any sudden movement or loud noise sends him into a panic, his great wings flaring as he half hops, half flies to the furthest corner of the paddock. Elias knows that he cannot force a bond with Nimbus. Trust, especially for a creature like this, cannot be demanded. It must be offered freely and without expectation. And so begins the slow, painstaking process of building that trust. A daily ritual that is as much a meditation for Elias as it is therapy for the Hippogriff. From a small satchel, Elias takes out the key to today's lesson. It is not a whip or a rope. It is an apple. But it is not just any apple. It is a sun-pearled apple grown from a single, magically tended tree in the sanctuary's orchard. The apple is a work of art. Its skin is a perfect, unblemished crimson, so deeply colored it is almost black. But swirling across its surface are shimmering, opalescent patterns, like oil on water, that catch the light and glint with all the colors of the rainbow. It is beautiful, and more importantly, its scent is intoxicatingly sweet, a perfume that no hippogriff can long resist. Elias does not approach Nimbus. He simply unlatches the gate to the paddock, slips inside, and closes it gently behind him. He then walks to a spot roughly in the middle of the field, a carefully chosen location that is far enough from Nimbus to feel safe, but close enough to be noticed. He sits down on the cool, damp grass, crossing his legs, making his body as small and non-threatening as possible. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he places the shimmering, perfect apple on the ground directly in front of him. And then he waits. This is the entire exercise. There are no words, no commands, no attempts to coax or cajole. There is only the man, the apple, and the terrified creature on the other side of the field. The entire chapter of their story today will be written in the space between them. At first, Nimbus pretends not to notice. He keeps his back to Elias, his sharp eagle head focused on a particularly interesting patch of grass. But Elias can see the subtle signs of his awareness. The feathers on his neck are slightly ruffled. One of his great feathered ears is swiveled back, listening intently. His horse-like tail gives a single sharp, agitated flick. He is acutely aware of the intrusion into his space. Elias remains perfectly still, his breathing slow and even. He does not stare at the hippogriff. He keeps his gaze soft, directed at the apple on the ground. He is a statue, a harmless feature of the landscape. After several long minutes, the irresistible sweet scent of the sun-pearled apple finally works its magic. Nimbus cannot ignore it no longer. He stops his pretend grazing and turns his head, his sharp golden eyes fixing on the shimmering crimson offering. This is the beginning of the internal conflict, a silent, dramatic battle being waged in the hippogriff's mind. His fear, a powerful, instinctual force forged by past trauma, screams at him to stay away, that the man is a source of pain, that the offering is a trick, a trap. But his curiosity,
A natural driving force in all intelligent creatures is whispering to him, "What is that beautiful shimmering thing? Why does it smell so wonderful?" The man is not moving. He is not shouting. He is just sitting. For what feels like an hour, Nimbus remains frozen, his body tense, his mind at war with itself. He takes a single hesitant step forward, his great clawed talons sinking into the soft earth. Then a wave of fear washes over him, and he takes 2 steps back, his wings fluttering nervously. He lets out a soft, low squawk, a sound of pure frustration and confusion. Elias does not react. His patience is a deep, calm well. He knows that any reaction from him, even a gentle, encouraging word, would shatter the fragile bubble of the moment and send Nimbus fleeing. He must be a mountain. He must be a rock. He must simply be. The battle in Nimbus's mind continues. He feints to the left, then to the right, as if testing for an invisible wall. He stretches his long neck out, trying to get a better scent of the apple without moving his feet. He paws at the ground with a front talon, a gesture of deep unease. Then a breakthrough. A small brown field mouse, emboldened by the stillness, darts out from the grass near Elias. It scurries right up to the apple, sniffs it, and then, finding it too large to tackle, scurries away. This tiny, insignificant event is a monumental piece of evidence for Nimbus. The tiny creature, the most vulnerable of prey, approached the man and the apple and came to no harm. The man is not a hunter. The apple is not a trap. This seems to tilt the scales. Nimbus takes another step forward, and another. His movements are agonizingly slow, each step a monumental victory over his fear. He is a creature relearning the very concept of safety. Elias can hear the hippogriff's breathing now, a quick, shallow panting. He can see the intricate, beautiful patterns of his feathers, the way the sunlight catches the golden flecks in his eyes. He is so close now, only a few yards away. He stops, his body still coiled like a spring, ready to bolt at the slightest provocation. He lowers his head, stretching his neck to its absolute limit, his beak reaching for the apple. His beak is inches away. He hesitates. His eyes flick from the apple to Elias, one final desperate check for any sign of a threat. Elias remains motionless, a statue of peaceful intent. And then, with a final decisive movement, Nimbus's beak snatches the apple from the ground. The victory is swift. He does not linger. The moment the apple is in his beak, his fear takes over again. He rears back, his great wings beating the air, and he leaps backward, putting a safe distance between himself and the man once more. He lands, turns his back, and, with a few loud, satisfying crunches, devours the apple. The exercise is over. Elias does not move. He waits until Nimbus has finished his prize, until the last piece is gone.
Then, slowly, carefully, so as not to startle him, he rises to his feet and walks away, leaving the paddock without a backward glance. He has not tamed the hippogriff. He has not broken its spirit. He has simply offered a gift, and it has been accepted. It was a single small apple, a tiny gesture. But in the slow, quiet, patient language of trust. It was a conversation of epic proportions. A foundation has been laid, and tomorrow Elias will return, and perhaps he will be able to sit just a little bit closer. Having addressed the psychological needs of the more emotive beasts, Elias now turns to a task that requires a different kind of discipline altogether. It is a chore that involves no empathy, no gentle offerings, no attempts at communication. It is an exercise in pure, focused, nerve-wracking procedure. It is time to polish the basilisk. The basilisk's enclosure is set apart from the others, nestled in a deep, sun-drenched hollow at the far end of the valley. The air here is different, hot, dry, and heavy with the smell of warm sand and something else, a faint, sharp, ozonic scent that prickles the nostrils, the smell of latent, dangerous magic. The enclosure itself is a large, circular pit dug into the ground, its walls made of thick, reinforced stone. Inside, the environment has been meticulously crafted to mimic the arid desert caves that these creatures call home. There is a deep bed of fine, warm sand, a cluster of large, sun-baked rocks, and a shallow, stone-lined pool of murky water. And coiled in the center of it all, basking in a patch of direct sunlight, is Salazar. Salazar is a very, very old basilisk. He is immense, his serpentine body as thick as a tree trunk and at least 30 feet long. His scales are not the vibrant green of a young basilisk, but a dull, mottled, stony gray, like ancient weathered rock. He is a living fossil, a relic from a time when the world was younger and more filled with terrors. The greatest of those terrors, the basilisk's legendary petrifying gaze, has been dimmed by the passage of centuries. Salazar is partially blind, his great yellow reptilian eyes clouded with cataracts. His gaze is no longer instantly lethal. It is weak, inconsistent, and its effects are often temporary, turning flesh to a brittle, crumbling stone rather than permanent rock. But often temporary is not the same as always harmless. The danger, however diminished, is still very real. Before entering the enclosure, Elias performs a series of safety rituals. He dons a pair of thick, heavy leather gauntlets that go up to his elbows. He pulls a dark, heavy hood over his head, its shadows obscuring his face. Most importantly, he takes down a large, circular, highly polished steel shield that hangs by the enclosure's gate. This shield is not for defense against tooth or claw. It is his looking glass, his only safe way of observing the creature within. With his preparations complete, he takes a deep breath, unlatches the heavy iron gate, and steps inside, pulling the gate shut behind him. The heat inside the pit is immediate and oppressive. He moves with a slow, deliberate, almost dreamlike pace. His first action is to prop the polished shield against the far wall of the enclosure, angling it so that it gives him a clear, convex, and safely indirect view of the entire pit. From this moment on, he will not look at Salazar directly. He will only ever watch his shimmering, distorted reflection in the polished steel. His task today is simple, almost comically mundane when one considers the lethal nature of his roommate. It is a cleaning chore. The warm, stagnant water of Salazar's pool has allowed a slick, green layer of algae to grow on the basilisk's stony scales, and the water itself needs to be refreshed. It is a job that must be done. Elias picks up a long-handled brush with stiff bristles and a wooden bucket. He walks not towards the basilisk, but towards the pool. He moves with a quiet, shuffling gait, his feet sinking into the warm sand. The only sound is the soft crunch of his own footsteps, and another, much softer sound, the low, dry, reptilian hiss that emanates from the coiled creature in the center of the pit. It is not a hiss of aggression. It is simply the sound of the basilisk breathing, a dry, dusty, ancient sound. The tension in this chore comes not from action. It is a slow, methodical ballet of careful movements. Elias keeps his own head and body angled away from Salazar, his gaze fixed firmly on the reflection in the shield. In the distorted steel, he can see the great gray coil of the basilisk, unmoving, seemingly sleepy. But he knows it is aware of his presence. He begins by cleaning the scales. He dips his long-handled brush into the bucket of clean water and approaches the coiled serpent from the rear. He extends the brush and begins to gently, methodically scrub the algae from the stony gray scales. The sound is a wet, rasping scrape, the bristles working against the rock-like hide. He works in long, slow, even strokes, always watching the reflection. He can see the basilisk's great head, unmoving. He can see the clouded yellow eyes, seemingly closed. He scrubs a section, then shuffles a few feet to the side, scrubs another section, his movements economical and precise. He is a window cleaner on the world's most dangerous skyscraper. He must not make any sudden movements. He must not make any loud noises. He must simply perform his task with a calm, detached focus. Every few moments, the low hissing from the creature will stop for a second, and in the polished shield, Elias will see one of the clouded yellow eyelids flicker open. This is the most dangerous moment. He freezes instantly, becoming a statue, his brush held motionless in mid-air. He waits. He watches the reflection, his heart beating a slow, heavy drum in his chest. Is the gaze active? Will he feel the strange, creeping numbness, the sudden, terrifying stiffness in his limbs? After a long, silent moment, the eyelid in the reflection droops shut again, and the low hissing resumes. The danger has passed. He can continue his work. After the scales are clean, he turns his attention to the pool. He takes his bucket and begins to bail out the old, murky water, tossing it onto the hot sand, where it evaporates almost instantly with a sizzle. He then uses the brush to scrub the slimy bottom of the stone-lined pool. Finally, he opens a small hidden valve that allows fresh, cool water to trickle in, refilling the pool. His work is done. The entire process has taken almost an hour of slow, silent, methodical work, an hour spent in a state of heightened, razor-sharp awareness. He gathers his tools, gives the enclosure one last indirect survey in the reflection of the shield, and then walks backwards towards the gate, never turning his back on the creature, even in reflection. He unlatches the gate, slips out, and closes the heavy iron portal behind him. He leans against the cool stone of the outer wall for a moment, pulling back his hood and taking a deep breath of the fresh, clean valley air. A single drop of sweat trickles down his temple. The mundane is often the most dangerous. Taming a beast in a flurry of action is one kind of skill, but quietly, patiently cleaning the scales of a creature that can kill you with a glance, that is another kind of bravery altogether. It is the bravery of the caretaker, the quiet courage of a man who performs a necessary, terrifying task, not for glory, but simply because it needs to be done. After the high-stakes tension of Salazar's enclosure, Elias seeks refuge in a different kind of work, a gentler, more grounding form of labor. The beasts, for the moment, are all tended to. Now he must tend to their home. A sanctuary for magical creatures is not a static, unchanging place. It is a living environment, subject to the constant wear and tear of its powerful and often clumsy residents. The afternoon for Elias is a time for maintenance, a quiet hour of craftsmanship that is as much a form of meditation as it is a necessary chore. His first task takes him to the Hippogriff paddock. The previous day, Nimbus, in a fit of nervous energy, had decided to use one of the thick wooden fence posts as a scratching post for his formidable beak and talons. The result is a post that is deeply scarred and splintered, its structural integrity compromised. Elias runs a hand over the damaged wood, his fingers tracing the deep gouges left by the hippogriff's talons. He sighs, not with annoyance, but with a kind of weary understanding. He fetches his toolbox, a heavy, well-worn wooden chest filled with the simple, practical tools of a carpenter and a leatherworker. He begins by removing the damaged post. The work is slow and methodical. He uses a heavy mallet and a chisel to loosen the packed earth around its base. The rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the mallet, a steady, reassuring beat in the quiet afternoon. He works patiently, not rushing, until the post is loose enough to be pulled from the ground. He examines the damage more closely. It is too deep to be simply sanded down. The post will need to be replaced. He selects a new post from a small stack of seasoned hardwood he keeps for just such occasions. It is a thick, sturdy piece of timber, smelling faintly of pine and sunshine. He uses a rasp, a long, rough file, to smooth down the edges of the new post, ensuring there are no splinters that could harm the hippogriffs. The sound of the rasp against the wood is a dry, whispering shh, a sound of gradual, patient improvement. He then sets the new post in the hole, using a spirit level, a simple water-filled glass tube, to make sure it is perfectly straight. He fills the hole with fresh earth, tamping it down firmly with the end of his mallet until the post is solid and unmoving. The entire process is a small symphony of practical sounds, the grunt of effort as he lifts the heavy timber, the whisper of the file, the solid thud of the mallet. It is the sound of mending, of making something whole again. His next task takes him back up the winding path to the eyrie. The great rope net that serves as a secondary safety barrier and a comfortable lounging spot for Kale has a small tear in it, likely caused by an errant sharp talon. The net is a massive thing, its ropes as thick as a man's arm, and mending it is a job that requires both strength and skill. Elias sits on the edge of the rocky ledge, the great sleeping form of the griffin a few yards away, and sets to work. He takes a coil of fresh, new rope from his satchel, along with a large curved needle made of polished bone and a ball of waxy twine. The work is a form of large-scale weaving. His hands, garneled and calloused, move with a surprising dexterity. He weaves the new rope into the old, his fingers dancing in a complex, practiced rhythm. The sound of the work is quiet and intimate. There is the soft, fibrous scrape of the new rope being pulled through the tight weave of the net. There is the faint, sharp snick of his knife as he trims the excess rope. There is the low, rhythmic hum he sometimes makes when he is deeply focused on a task, a sound he is not even aware he is making. This is not just a repair job. It is a quiet conversation with the materials themselves. Elias knows the feel of good rope, the way it flexes and holds a knot. He knows the precise amount of tension to apply, enough to be strong, but not so much that it strains the surrounding weave. He works with a deep, instinctual understanding of his craft, an understanding born of years of mending and making. As he works, his mind is calm. This kind of labor, this focused manual task, is a balm to his soul. It quiets the constant low-level worry that comes with being the sole caretaker of so many powerful and precious lives. When he is sanding a piece of wood or weaving a rope, his world shrinks down to the small, manageable space right in front of him. There is no need for telepathy, no fear of a petrifying gaze. There is only the feel of the rope in his hands, the satisfying pull of a tight knot, the simple, honest reality of a job well done. It is in these moments of quiet craftsmanship that the sanctuary truly feels like his own. He is not just its warden. He is its creator, its maintainer, its heart. Every mended fence post, every patched net, every oiled hinge and sharpened tool is a small piece of himself, a testament to his dedication and his care. He is grounding this fantastical place with its griffins and blink dogs in the simple, mundane reality of necessary labor. He is proving that even in a world of magic, a sturdy fence and a well-mended net are still of vital importance. When the tear in the net is finally mended, the new section of rope blending almost seamlessly with the old, he sits back and admires his handiwork. It is a small, almost invisible repair, a detail that no one but he will ever notice. But it brings him a deep, quiet satisfaction. He has restored a small piece to his world. He has made his home a little safer, a little stronger. He gathers his tools, gives the sleeping griffin a soft, affectionate glance, and makes his way back down the path. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, and the long afternoon shadows are stretching across the valley.
The air is filled with the quiet, peaceful sounds of his work, the gentle echoes of a hammer, a file, and a knife.
It is the sound of a craftsman's peace, a quiet, humble, and profoundly beautiful sound. As the sun climbs to its zenith, hanging directly overhead like a great golden medallion in the vast blue sky, a profound and magical transformation occurs throughout the sanctuary. It is not a loud or dramatic change, but a slow, gentle, creeping quiet. The energy of the morning, the feeding, the grooming, the mending dissipates, replaced by a deep, pervasive, and almost sacred stillness. This is the hour of the midday silence, a time when the entire valley seems to take a long, slow, collective breath and hold it. The heat of the day has banished the last of the morning mist, and the air is warm and still. The only sounds are the gentle, drowsy hum of insects in the tall grass, and the faint, whispery sigh of a light breeze moving through the leaves of the willow trees. It is a time for rest, a shared, unspoken agreement between man and beast to pause and surrender to the warmth of the sun. Up on the high, rocky ledge of the Eyrie, the great griffin Kael is no longer the proud, vigilant sentinel of the morning. He is a study in magnificent repose. He is not sleeping in the deep, oblivious way a lesser creature might. He is dozing, his massive form sprawled out on the sun-warmed rock. His great eagle head is tucked down, his beak nestled into the soft, downy feathers of his chest. His golden eyes are closed, but his feathered ears twitch occasionally, still attuned to the subtle sounds of the valley. His leonine body is completely relaxed, his breathing a slow, deep, almost imperceptible rise and fall of his powerful ribcage. He is a mountain at rest, a monument of serene, sleeping power. Down in the grassy paddock, the hippogriff herd has also succumbed to the midday languor. They are not grazing now. They have found a patch of particularly tall, soft grass, and they are lying down together in a gentle, tangled pile of feathers and fur. Sky Shadow, the lead mare, lies on her side, her long, horse-like legs stretched out, her head resting on the warm earth. Nimbus, the skittish young male, has finally allowed himself to relax completely. He is nestled close to the others, his body pressed against the comforting warmth of the herd, his usual tension gone, replaced by the limp, trusting surrender of sleep. Their breathing is a soft, rhythmic chorus of gentle snorts and puffs, a peaceful, pastoral sound. In the shaded grove, the blink dog pack has all but vanished. The midday silence is their time of deepest rest, when their physical forms dissolve almost completely, returning to their natural, ethereal state. There are no solid, hound-like shapes to be seen. There is only a slight, shimmering quality to the air beneath the willow trees, a faint, silvery haze that hovers just above the ground. They are a living mist, a collective consciousness dreaming in the cool, dappled shade. To be in their grove now is to be in a place of profound and absolute tranquility, a place where the boundary between the physical and the spiritual has all but disappeared. And Elias, the quiet conductor of this sleepy orchestra, partakes in the ritual as well. His work is done for now.
The relentless demands of the sanctuary have been temporarily satisfied. He finds his favorite spot, a simple, weathered wooden bench he built himself, positioned under the shade of a large oak tree on a hill that overlooks the entire valley. From here, he can see it all: the sleeping griffin on his perch, the dozing herd in their pasture, the shimmering mist in the grove. He sits down with a soft, weary sigh, the warmth of the sun on his face. He does not sleep. He simply pauses. This is his time, a time for quiet reflection, for observation without purpose. Sometimes he will take a small block of soft wood from his pocket and a sharp, well-worn carving knife, and he will whittle. His hands, so accustomed to work, are never truly still. He carves small, simple figures: a bird in flight, a coiled snake, a miniature, remarkably lifelike hippogriff. The process is a meditation. His mind goes quiet, his focus narrowing down to the feel of the wood, the curl of the shavings as they fall from the blade, the slow emergence of a shape from the formless block. The soft scraping sound of the knife on the wood is the only contribution he makes to the midday silence. Other times he does nothing at all. He simply sits. He watches the clouds drift across the sky, great, white, fluffy ships sailing on an endless blue ocean. He watches a hawk circling on the high thermal currents, his wings held perfectly still. He watches the way the light and shadows play across the valley floor, a slow, silent, ever-changing dance. He lets his mind wander, not to thoughts of his duties or the needs of his beasts, but to simpler, more elemental things. He notices the intricate pattern of the bark tree beside him. He observes the tireless industry of a line of ants marching across the ground at his feet. He feels the gentle breeze on his skin. He is not the trainer now. He is not the caretaker. He is simply another creature of the valley, sharing in its quiet midday peace. This hour of stillness is as vital to the health of the sanctuary as the food and the grooming. It is a shared experience that binds them all together. The man, the griffin, the hippogriffs, the blink dogs. They are all part of the same great, slow, breathing organism. They are napping together, a strange, wonderful, and motley family, united in their collective surrender to the peace of the day. As the sun begins its slow descent from its peak, the magic of the midday silence begins to fade. A cool breeze picks up, rustling the leaves. Up on the eyrie, the old griffin stirs, stretching his massive wings with a sound like unfolding canvas. In the paddock, the hippogriffs begin to rise, shaking the sleep from their bodies. And in the grove, the shimmering mist begins to thicken and coalesce once more. The pause is over. The work of the afternoon awaits. But Elias does not feel rushed. He feels restored. He takes one last long look at the peaceful valley, pockets his half-finished carving, and rises from his bench. The shared nap is complete, a quiet, simple, and profoundly beautiful ritual that has charged his spirit and prepared him for the rest of the day.
The restorative peace of the midday silence gives way to the gentle, productive hum of the afternoon. Elias makes his rounds once more, his pace slow and observational, checking on the beasts as they stir from their slumber. His path eventually leads him back up to the eyrie, where Kale, the old griffin, is now awake and alert,
preening his feathers with a renewed energy. Elias approaches not with his grooming tools this time, but simply with the quiet intention of companionship. Kale acknowledges him with a low, rumbling purr and allows the man to come close, a silent permission granted. Elias doesn't speak. He simply runs a gentle, calloused hand over the griffin's warm, furry back. And as he does, his fingers trace the landscape of the old warrior's life, a history written not in ink on parchment, but in scars on living flesh. This is the study of scars, a silent afternoon ritual of remembrance. Each scar is a word, each cluster of marks a sentence, and the entire magnificent body of the griffin is a great, epic, and profoundly tragic tale. Elias's fingers find the first, and perhaps most prominent of the scars. It is a long, thin, silvery line that runs diagonally across Kale's left flank, a pale, hairless track through the thick, tawny fur. It is an old wound, perfectly healed, but the story it tells is a sharp and ugly one. Elias closes his eyes for a moment, and his mind, guided by empathy and the fragments of stories he has pieced together over the years, imagines the scene. He sees a younger, fiercer Kale, soaring not over this peaceful valley, but over the jagged, smoke-choked peaks of the Dragon's Tooth Mountains. Below him, a chaotic battle rages, the guttural war cries of orcs and the high, thin shrieks of goblins filling the air. Kale is not a wild creature then. He is a beast of war, bonded to a knight in shining silver armor. They dive into the fray, a whirlwind of beak and claw and flashing steel. The scar on his flank, Elias knows, is from a goblin spear. It was not a noble wound from a worthy foe. It was a lucky, desperate upward thrust from a terrified, cowering creature, its jagged obsidian tip tearing through fern and flesh. He can almost feel the sudden sharp, searing pain of it, the indignant roar of the great beast, the frantic, worried cry of his rider. The wound was not fatal, but it was a lesson in the cruel indignities of war, a reminder that even the mightiest can be laid low by the smallest of foes. He moves his hand up to the griffin's massive, muscular shoulder, to a place where the fur is thin and puckered. Here the story is different. There are 3 deep, parallel gouges, a trio of scars that could only have been made by the claws of another large predator. This, Elias suspects, was not a wound from the wars of men. This was from a battle for territory, for survival, perhaps against a rival griffin or a hungry manticore. He imagines a confrontation high on a lonely mountain peak, a territorial dispute played out against a backdrop of wind and snow. He sees the flashing talons, the snapping beaks, the raw primal fury of 2 great beasts locked in a desperate struggle. It was a battle of equals, a brutal but honest conflict, and Kale had emerged the victor, but not unscathed. This scar is not a mark of shame. It is a badge of honor, a testament to his strength and his dominance in the wild, savage world he once called home. Elias's fingers then drift to a small, almost perfectly circular scar just below the griffin's eye. It is a strange, neat wound, unlike the others. It is a scar from magic. He pictures a cackling sorcerer, his face illuminated by the sickly green glow of his staff, launching a bolt of corrosive energy. He sees the bolt striking Kale, the sizzle of burning flesh and feathers, the scream of pain. It is a reminder of a different kind of warfare, a battle not of strength, but of arcane power, a fight against an enemy who does not bleed, and who can kill from a distance. It is a scar that speaks of the unfairness of the world, of the kind of cowardly evil that even the bravest warrior cannot always overcome. He continues his silent reading of the griffin's history. There is a patch of rough, calloused skin on his chest, a testament to years of wearing a heavy, chafing breastplate and saddle. There are countless smaller nicks and cuts, the everyday scrapes and scratches of a long and violent life. Each one is a footnote in the great, sprawling epic of Kale's existence. Elias does not feel excitement or awe as he traces these marks of past battles. He feels a deep, profound, and sorrowful empathy. He is not glorifying the violence, he is mourning it. He sees not a legendary beast of war, but a survivor, an old soldier who has endured more pain and terror than any living creature should have to. He sees the cost of the songs and stories that men sing about the glorious deeds of knights and their noble steeds. The glory for the knight is in the victory, but for the steed, for the beast of war, there is only the pain, the fear, and the scars. The study of scars is a way for Elias to honor that pain. It is a way for him to acknowledge the life Kale lived before he came to the sanctuary. It is a silent promise that here, in this peaceful valley, no new scars will be added. Here there are no spears, no rival predators, no malevolent sorcerers. There is only the warm sun, the gentle breeze, and the soft, caring touch of a friend. Kale, feeling the gentle, knowing touch of the man's hand, lets out another low, rumbling purr. He seems to understand what Elias is doing. He seems to appreciate this quiet, respectful acknowledgement. He leans his great furry body into the man, a silent gesture of shared memory and mutual comfort. Elias rests his forehead against the griffin's warm, feathery neck for a long moment. A man and a living legend, two old souls sharing a quiet, sun-drenched afternoon. The stories of the scars have been told, not with words, but in the silent, empathetic language of the sanctuary. It is the most powerful kind of storytelling there is. As the sun dips below the jagged peaks of the western mountains, painting the sky in soft, bruised shades of purple, orange, and rose, a different kind of energy settles over the sanctuary. The productive hum of the afternoon gives way to a slow, gentle winding down. It is time for the evening meal, an affair that is markedly different from the brisk, fuel-oriented breakfast. The evening feed is not about providing energy for the day ahead. It is about promoting calm, encouraging rest, and preparing the residents for a long, peaceful night's sleep. Elias moves back to his larder and workshop, but his preparations this time are those of a herbalist and a confectioner, not a butcher. The menu tonight is designed to be soothing, a gentle lullaby for the stomach and the soul. For Kyle, the old griffin, there will be no raw, invigorating fish. Instead, Elias selects several smaller, softer-fleshed silver bellies. He poaches them gently in a pot of simmering water, the sound a soft, bubbling whisper in the quiet cottage. Once cooked, the fish is flaky and tender, but the key ingredient is what he adds next. He takes down a small clay jar filled with a dried, fragrant herb with soft, gray-green leaves. It is called dream thistle, a gentle, non-addictive sedative that promotes deep, restful sleep and pleasant, if somewhat hazy, dreams. He crumbles a generous handful of the dried leaves over the warm, flaky fish. The heat releases the herb's aroma, a sweet, calming scent like warm hay and chamomile that fills the small kitchen. This meal will not only fill the griffin's belly, but also soothe his old, weary mind, chasing away the ghosts of old battles that sometimes haunt his sleep. For the Hippogriff herd, the evening meal is a sweet, pulpy mash. Elias takes a selection of large, overripe, sun-pearled apples and several hefty moon gourds, a type of squash that grows only in the pale, reflected light of the moon and has a naturally sweet, creamy flesh. He chops them roughly and places them in a large stone trough, then takes a heavy wooden masher and begins to crush them. The sound is a soft, satisfying, pulpy squelch. He works until the fruits and vegetables have been reduced to a thick, fragrant, and incredibly sweet-smelling mash. It is a dessert, a treat, a comforting, easily digestible meal that will settle in their stomachs and leave them feeling full, content, and drowsy. For the Blink Dog pack, the evening meal is once again an ethereal affair, but its purpose is different. He does not use the stimulating, emotionally charged scents of the morning. Tonight, he selects scents designed to promote tranquility and a sense of security. He takes down jars labeled warmth of the hearth, silence of a deep cave, and safety of the pack. He carefully applies a single drop of each scent to the shimmering, ectoplasmic meat. The colors that flash across its surface are no longer the vibrant reds and whites of the hunt, but soft, gentle, pulsing shades of deep blue, warm amber, and soft gray. This meal will calm their psychic energies, quiet their busy minds, and reinforce the feelings of safety and togetherness that are so crucial for a good night's rest for a pack animal. The delivery of the evening meal is an even slower and more intimate ritual than the morning feed. Elias loads his wheelbarrow and makes his rounds as the twilight deepens. The air is cool and still, and the first stars are beginning to prick the darkening canopy of the sky. He speaks to each animal as he delivers their food, his voice a low, soothing murmur, a gentle, melodic hum that is part of the meal itself. He climbs to the eyrie and places the tray of fragrant, herb-infused fish before Kael. "A little something to help you sleep, old friend," he whispers. "May your dreams be of quiet skies and gentle winds." The griffin eats slowly, delicately, savoring the soft, warm flesh and the calming aroma of the dream thistle. In the Hippogriff paddock, he pours the sweet, pulpy mash into their feeding trough. "There you are, my dears," he hums, "a sweet treat to end your day." The hippogriffs, including the usually skittish Nimbus, gather around the trough and eat with soft, contented slurps, their usual competitiveness replaced by a shared, peaceful enjoyment. Even Nimbus allows Elias to stand a little closer this time, his fear overshadowed by the irresistible sweetness of the mash. In the Blink Dog Grove, he places the softly glowing slab on its stone altar. "Peace to the pack," he says softly, directing the thought as much as the words into the misty air. "Rest well." He doesn't wait for a response. He knows it will be received. He knows that tonight the collective consciousness of the pack will be a calm, deep, untroubled lake. As he completes his rounds, he ensures that each creature is not just fed, but settled. He checks that Kael has arranged his great feathery body comfortably on his perch. He waits until the hippogriffs have finished their meal and are beginning to nuzzle each other, their eyelids growing heavy. He lingers for a moment by the Blink Dog Grove, feeling the profound, tranquil silence that emanates from within. This is the final, crucial act of his day as a caretaker. He is not just a provider of food, he is a purveyor of peace. He is the guardian of their rest, the shepherd of their dreams. His work is to undo the damage of their past lives, to replace the anxiety of the battlefield and the terror of the cage with the simple, profound comfort of a full belly and a quiet mind. The sanctuary is now bathed in the soft, silvery light of the rising moon. The air is filled with the gentle, rhythmic sounds of contented chewing and the first soft, drowsy sighs of the settling beasts. The day is winding down, not with a sudden stop, but with a slow, graceful, and deeply satisfying fade to quiet. Elias turns back towards his cottage, his own body feeling the familiar, pleasant weight of a day's work well done. His charges are safe, they are calm, and they are content. And in his small, quiet world, that is all that truly matters.
With the evening meal delivered, and the residents of the sanctuary settling into a state of warm, well-fed contentment, Elias begins the final phase of his nightly ritual. This is not a task of physical labor or mental negotiation. It is an act of subtle, atmospheric curation, a gentle art of composing a lullaby for creatures who would not understand a song. Elias does not own a lute. His voice, though soothing in its low, gravelly tones, is not made for singing. His lullaby is not a melody he creates, but one that he coaxes from the world around him. His instruments are the wind, the wood, and the quiet magic of the valley itself. From a peg inside his cottage, he takes down a cluster of strange, beautiful objects. They are a set of wind chimes, but they are unlike any you have ever seen. He crafted them himself over many long, quiet winters. Each chime is not a metal tube, but a long, hollowed-out piece of a specific type of wood, carved with intricate, swirling patterns. There is a deep, resonant chime made from the heartwood of a fallen ironwood tree, a lighter, more melodic one carved from the pale, silvery bark of a whisper birch, and several smaller, higher-pitched chimes made from the hollow reeds that grow by the marsh. Each piece of wood has been chosen for its unique tonal quality, its ability to produce a specific calming sound when struck. Carrying his wooden orchestra, Elias makes his way through the darkening sanctuary. The moon is higher now, casting a soft, ethereal light over the landscape, turning the mist in the low-lying areas into a shimmering silver sea. His first stop is near the Hippogriff paddock. He hangs the largest of the chimes, the deep, resonant ironwood one, from the low-hanging branch of the great oak tree that overlooks their field. He chooses the spot carefully, a place where the evening breeze, as it funnels down from the mountains, will catch it just right. His next stop is near the Blinkdog Grove. Here he hangs the smaller, more delicate reed chimes. Their sound is much quieter, a series of soft, high, breathy notes, almost like the sighing of the grass itself. It is a sound designed not to disturb the deep psychic rest of the pack, but to complement it, to provide a gentle external anchor for their wandering, dreamlike minds. Finally, he makes the climb back up to the eyrie. He does not hang a chime here. For Kale, the lullaby is different. The great griffin, now curled up on his perch, is a creature of the high peaks and the endless sky. His comfort comes not from the sounds of the forest, but from the sound of the wind itself. Elias has, over the years, subtly carved a series of small, precisely angled holes and channels into the rock face of the eyrie. It is an almost invisible act of geological art. As the evening breeze blows across these channels, it creates a low, soft, whistling hum, a sound like the wind blowing over the mouth of a giant empty bottle. It is the sound of the mountains singing to themselves, a deep, ancient, and profoundly lonely melody that speaks directly to the griffin's wild, alpine soul. With the instruments in place, all Elias has to do is wait for the conductor. And as if on cue, the evening breeze begins to stir. It descends from the high mountain passes, a cool, clean current of air that carries the scent of pine and distant snow. It moves through the valley, a gentle, invisible hand, and the sanctuary's lullaby begins. The first notes come from the ironwood chime by the paddock. As the breeze nudges it, it lets out a deep, soft, resonant thrum, a sound that is felt as much as it is heard. It is a slow, calming, foundational note, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. The hippogriffs, already dozing in their grassy bed, twitch their ears in acknowledgement, their breathing deepening into the rhythm of the chime. A moment later, the breeze reaches the willow grove. It rustles through the long, trailing leaves with a sound like a soft, gentle rain. And then it touches the small reed chimes. They respond with a series of high, delicate, whispering notes, a random, tinkling melody that is never the same twice. It is a quiet, intricate filigree of sound, a perfect counterpoint to the deep, resonant bass of the ironwood. In the misty grove, the shimmering forms of the blinkdogs seem to pulse in time with the gentle music, their collective consciousness sinking even deeper into a state of shared, peaceful dreaming. And high up on the eyrie, the wind finds the carved channels in the rock, and the mountain begins to sing its lonely, whistling song. The sound wraps around the sleeping griffin like a familiar blanket, a reminder of his ancestral home, a lullaby of solitude and sky. This is the music of the sanctuary. It is a symphony composed of random chants and careful design. The deep thrum of the ironwood, the high whisper of the reeds, the lonely song of the wind in the rock, these are the primary instruments. But they are accompanied by a chorus of other smaller sounds. There is the gentle rhythmic rustle of leaves, the distant mournful hoot of an owl hunting in the far woods, the chirping of crickets in the grass. It is a rich, complex, and completely natural soundscape, a gentle web of sound that catches the mind and stills it. Elias sits on his bench, his work complete, and simply listens. He is the composer, the conductor, and the sole audience member of his own nightly concert. He watches as the last of his charges succumbs to sleep. He sees the final slow blink of a hippogriff's eye. He feels the last flicker of active thought from the blink dog pack fade into a deep, silent peace. He hears the breathing of the old griffin become a deep, slow, and steady rhythm, perfectly in sync with the humming of the wind. The lullaby has worked its magic. The wild, the broken, the fearful, and the mighty are all asleep, united in a shared, peaceful silence, protected by the gentle, whispering music of the night. It is a profound and beautiful moment, a testament to the idea that the most powerful magic is not always the loudest, and that sometimes the best way to soothe a savage beast is not with a spell, but with a song made of wind and chimes. With the sanctuary now wrapped in a blanket of gentle sound and deep, slumbering peace, Elias begins his final, most critical patrol of the night. This is the nightly ritual of securing the sanctuary, a methodical and deeply ingrained habit that is as much about his own peace of mind as it is about the safety of his charges. It is the act of locking up, a final, definitive closing of the day, ensuring that the fragile peace he has so carefully cultivated will remain undisturbed until morning. He takes his wisp lantern, its soft, blue-white light a small, friendly star in the moon-drenched darkness, and begins his rounds. This is not a walk of observation, but of interaction. He is checking the locks, the wards, and the boundaries, each one a unique and specialized form of security, tailored to the creature it contains. His first stop is the massive, iron-banded wooden gate of the Basilisk's pit. The air here is still warm from the day's sun, and the ozonic tang of Salazar's magic is a sharp, familiar scent. The lock here is a feat of simple, brutal, dwarven engineering. It is a massive, heavy iron bolt, as thick as a man's forearm, that slides into a deep, stone-carved recess. Elias grasps the cold, heavy handle of the bolt with both hands, and, with a low grunt of effort, slides it home. The sound is a deep, deafening, metallic chunk, a sound of absolute finality that echoes in the night air. It is a sound that says, nothing gets in and nothing gets out. He gives the gate a firm, solid push to ensure the bolt is seated correctly. It does not budge. Salazar is secure for the night. Next, he moves on to the Hippogriff paddock. The security here is not about brute force, but about cleverness. Hippogriffs are intelligent and curious creatures, and a simple latch or bolt would be a tempting puzzle for their sharp, inquisitive beaks. So, the gate to their paddock is secured with a lock of Elias's own design, a creation born of druidic lore and a deep understanding of his charges. It is a puzzle lock, woven from living, magically strengthened vines. There is no key, no combination. To open it, one must know the correct sequence of touch, a specific pattern of tracing the living, intertwined vines. To an outsider, it looks like a decorative, overgrown tangle of greenery. To Elias, it is a complex, organic mechanism. He runs his hands over the vines, his fingers tracing the familiar pattern. As he does, the vines respond to his touch, writhing and shifting with a soft, rustling sound. They loosen their grip, allowing the gate to be opened. He checks to make sure the gate is properly closed, then retraces the pattern in reverse. The vines tighten their weave once more, their leaves interlocking to form a dense, impenetrable barrier. It is a lock that cannot be picked or broken, only understood. It is a lock that respects the intelligence of the creatures it contains, a challenge rather than a simple restraint. The Hippogriff herd, sleeping peacefully in their grassy bed, are safe. The most delicate and complex security measure is at the Blink Dog Grove. As he approaches, he can see the faint, shimmering curtain of energy that marks the boundary. This is not a physical barrier, but a magical ward, a complex tapestry of protective spells. It is designed not to keep the blink dogs in, for no physical barrier could truly hold a creature that teleports, but to keep other things out. It repels creatures of malicious intent, confuses the senses of wandering predators, and muffles any loud, sudden noises from the outside world, ensuring the pack's psychic slumber remains undisturbed. Elias's task here is to check the integrity of this ward. He holds his wisp lantern close to the shimmering curtain of light. The wisp inside the jar, usually a placid blue-white color, would flare into a bright, angry red if it detected any weakness or breach in the magical field. Tonight, the wisp's light remains a steady, calming blue. The ward is strong. But Elias performs a secondary check, a more personal one. He places his hand not on the barrier, but just before it, in the air where the magic is most potent. He closes his eyes and feels the ward's energy. It is a faint, static tingle on his skin, a low, almost inaudible hum in his ears. It feels stable, balanced, and whole. He then performs a small act of reinforcement. He takes a pinch of powdered silver from a pouch on his belt and gently blows it towards the ward. The silver dust catches the moonlight, creating a brief, beautiful, shimmering cloud. As the dust touches the magical barrier, it is consumed with a series of tiny, silent, silvery sparks. Each spark a small patch on the invisible magical fabric. It is an act of maintenance, like oiling a hinge or sharpening a blade, ensuring the spell remains strong and vibrant. The pack is protected. His final check is the most important one, the one that secures the entire sanctuary. He makes his way to the single great gate that leads from the valley into the outside world.
This gate is a marvel, a seamless blend of mundane craftsmanship and powerful magic. It is made of ironwood, but it has been treated with ancient, petrifying potions that make it as hard as stone. And it is sealed not with a lock, but with a word. Carved into the center of the gate is a single, complex, swirling glyph. Elias places his palm flat against the cold, hard wood of the glyph. He closes his mind, clears his mind, and whispers a single word in an ancient, forgotten tongue, a word that means sanctuary. As he speaks, the glyph glows with a soft amber light, and he can feel a deep, resonant hum run through the entire gate and then out along the very stone walls of the valley itself. A powerful, comprehensive ward settles over the entire area, a great, invisible dome of peace and protection. The nightly ritual is complete. Every lock has been checked. Every ward has been reinforced. The sanctuary is now a fortress of tranquility, a haven sealed off from the dangers and chaos of the outside world. This final methodical patrol is Elias's own lullaby. It is the routine that allows him to sleep. It quiets the nagging, protective worries in his own mind. He has done everything in his power to ensure the safety of his charges. He has built the walls. He has set the locks. He has whispered the words. He has created a space where the broken can heal, the weary can rest, and the hunted can finally feel safe. He turns away from the great gate and walks back towards his small, dark cottage, his lantern casting a single, small, moving circle of light on the path. The night is deep. The music of the chimes is soft, and all is well.
With the sanctuary sealed and the wards humming with their silent, protective energy, Elias performs one last personal ritual before retiring for the night. This is not a task of necessity or security. It is an act of pure, quiet affection, a final good night to the strange and wonderful family he has built. He takes his wisp lantern, but this time he pulls the small leather hood almost completely over the jar, dimming its soft blue light to a mere ghost of its former self. He wants to move through the darkness without disturbing it, to be a shadow among shadows. He begins his final walk, a silent, reverent tour of his sleeping kingdom. The moon is high and bright now, a great silver disk in a sky of infinite, starry black. It bathes the valley in a soft, ethereal glow, turning the world into a beautiful, monochrome dreamscape. The only other light is the tiny, moving pinprick from his hooded lantern, a small, intimate circle of warmth in the vast, cool silence. He does not need the light to see the path. He knows it by heart. The light is for seeing the details, the small, precious moments of peace that the darkness holds. His first stop is the Basilisk's pit. He peers over the stone wall, his gaze careful and indirect, though the danger is minimal now that the great beast is asleep. In the dim moonlight, Salazar is a magnificent, terrible sight. He is coiled in a great serpentine mound in the center of his sandy enclosure, his massive head resting on his own thick, stony coils. He is perfectly still, a living statue, a creature of primordial power at rest. The lantern's faint light catches the subtle, mottled pattern of his scales, which shimmer with a faint mineral iridescence, like mica embedded in granite. His breathing is so slow and shallow that it is almost imperceptible, a single, deep, chest-filling breath every few minutes. He is the very picture of ancient, dormant power, a sleeping volcano, and Elias feels a deep sense of awe and profound respect for the sheer, terrifying age of the creature before him. Next, he walks to the Hippogriff paddock. The herd is a single, breathing pile of fur and feathers in the center of the field. They are lying close together, their bodies a jumble of horse-like legs, powerful wings, and sharp eagle heads. In sleep, their fierce avian features are softened, their usual skittishness replaced by a deep, trusting tranquility. Elias's lantern light plays across them, revealing the intricate beauty of their forms. It catches the soft, downy feathers on their chests, the powerful curve of a muscular haunch, the delicate, veined texture of a folded wing. He can see the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of their flanks as they breathe in unison, a single, collective organism dreaming of green pastures and open skies. He sees Nimbus, the young, fearful male, tucked safely in the very center of the pile, his head resting on the warm, furry back of the lead mare, Sky Shadow. It is a sight that fills Elias with a deep, quiet joy. The circle of trust is complete. The broken thing is beginning to heal. He lingers for a moment by the Blinkdog Grove. He cannot see them, of course. They are nothing but a faint, silvery mist, a cool patch of air under the weeping willows. But he can feel them. The psychic atmosphere of the grove is one of profound, untroubled peace. It is a silence that is deeper than mere lack of sound. It is the silence of a dozen minds dreaming as one. Their collective consciousness, a calm, deep, silent pool. He imagines their dreams, not of haunts and fears, but of the simple, joyful sensations of running, of the wind in their fur, of the comforting, telepathic presence of their packmates. It is a peace so complete, so absolute, that it feels sacred. His final visit is to the Eyrie. He makes the slow, quiet climb up the stone path, his footsteps muffled by the night. Kyle is curled up on his ledge, his massive body arranged that is surprisingly, almost comically, cat-like. His great eagle head is tucked down, and one of his massive leonine paws is curled up near his beak. He looks less like a fearsome beast of legend and more like a giant, overgrown house cat napping by a celestial fireplace. His breathing is a deep, slow, rumbling sound, a soft, feathered purr that vibrates through the very rock of the mountain. Elias allows the faint light of his lantern to dance over the sleeping griffin. It illuminates the incredible detail that is lost in the harsh light of day. It catches the delicate, gossamer-like filaments of his downy underfeathers. It highlights the sharp, perfect curve of his deadly beak, now softened in sleep. It traces the powerful, beautiful lines of the great folded wings that have carried him through so much war and sorrow. Elias stands there for a long time, simply watching the old warrior sleep. He is overwhelmed by a feeling of profound love and reverence for this creature, this living piece of history, who has, against all odds, survived to find a place of peace. This final, silent walk is the most important part of Elias's day. It is the reward for all his hard work. To see these magnificent, powerful, and often terrifying creatures in a state of complete vulnerability and trust is a privilege beyond measure. To know that he is the one who has provided this sanctuary, this small circle of peace in a hostile world, fills him with a deep, quiet, and unshakable sense of purpose. He has seen them fed, he has seen them cared for, and now he has seen them safe and at peace in the darkness. The circle is complete. He makes his way back to his cottage, his heart full. He extinguishes his lantern, plunging his small room into a darkness that is no longer empty, but filled with the gentle, rhythmic breathing of a dozen sleeping giants. The night is deep, the air is still, and all is well.
Elias slips back into his small stone cottage, the solid wooden door closing behind him with a soft, familiar click. The last of his duties are done. The sanctuary is secure. Its residents are fed and at peace, and the long, quiet hours of the night stretch before him. He stands for a moment in the center of his humble room, the darkness complete now that his lantern is extinguished. He doesn't need light to navigate this space. It is as familiar to him as his own skin. He can feel the presence of his workbench, the chair, the simple cot. The air in the room is cool and still, but it is no longer empty. It is filled with the gentle, ambient sounds of the sleeping sanctuary, a symphony of quiet life that filters through the stone walls. He can hear, or perhaps feel, the deep, slow, resonant breathing of Kyle from the high eyrie. He can imagine the soft, collective sighs of the Hippogriff herd, and he can sense the profound psychic stillness that emanates from the Blinkdog Grove. The air itself seems to pulse with a slow, gentle, rhythmic peace. This is the sound of his success. This is the sound of a job well done. He moves to his cot, his movements slow and weary. The exhaustion of the day, which he has held at bay through sheer force of will and a sense of duty, now washes over him completely. It is a good exhaustion, a clean exhaustion, the satisfying ache of a body that has worked hard in the service of a worthy cause. He pulls off his dusty boots, his heavy leather apron, and his simple tunic, and slides under the single, rough-spun wool blanket on his cot. The straw mattress rustles beneath him, a dry, comforting sound.
He lies on his back, his hands folded on his chest, and stares up into the darkness. His mind, for the first time all day, is truly his own. He does not think about the chores of tomorrow, the mending that still needs to be done, or the state of his dwindling supply of dragon bone powder. He allows his mind to simply be. And in the quiet, a deep, profound sense of satisfaction settles over him. It is not the triumphant, exultant feeling of a warrior who has won a great battle, nor the proud, boastful feeling of a king who has surveyed his vast kingdom. It is a much quieter, deeper, and more meaningful feeling. It is the quiet satisfaction of a life of purpose. He thinks about the creatures in his care, each one a refugee from a world that did not understand them, a world that sought to use them, cage them, or destroy them. He thinks of Kyle, the living weapon of war, who now knows only the warmth of the sun and the gentle touch of a grooming brush. He thinks of Nimbus, the terrified, broken-spirited Hippogriff, who today, for the first time, willingly took a gift from his hand. He thinks of the Blink Dog Pack, their psychic harmony restored, their strange, beautiful minds at peace. He has not sought glory. There are no bards to sing songs of his deeds, no great tapestries depicting his quiet daily victories. His name is not known in the courts of kings, and his face would not be recognized in any bustling city. His life is a small, quiet, anonymous one, lived out in a forgotten valley at the edge of the world. And yet, he knows, with a certainty that resonates in the very core of his being, that his life has meaning. His purpose is not to conquer, but to heal. His calling is not to tame, but to understand. His great work is to provide a sanctuary, a small, safe harbor where these magnificent, wounded creatures can live out their days not as monsters or as tools, but simply as themselves. It is a life dedicated to providing peace to those who have known only war, to offering kindness to those who have known only cruelty, to build in trust with those who have been taught only to fear. It is a strange, lonely, and often difficult life. But as he lies there, listening to the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping beasts, he knows that he would not trade it for all the gold in a dragon's hoard or all the power of a king's throne. This is his treasure. This is his kingdom. As his own eyelids grow heavy, his thoughts begin to drift, becoming less formed, more dreamlike. The boundaries between his own consciousness and the quiet, collective consciousness of the sanctuary begin to blur. He feels a sense of deep, peaceful connection to the sleeping creatures, a feeling of being one small, integral part of a great, resting whole. He is the shepherd, and this is his flock, a strange and wonderful flock of living legends. His own breathing begins to slow, to deepen, to fall into sync with the gentle, rhythmic pulse of the life around him. And just as he is about to surrender completely to the sweet oblivion of sleep, one final sound reaches him. It travels on the cool night air, a deep, slow, raspy sound, a sound heavy with the weight of centuries. thick with the texture of old worn feathers. It is the sound of the old griffin, Kyle, letting out one last deep and profoundly contented sigh in his sleep. The sound that began his day now ends it. The circle is complete. The trainer has found his own rest, lulled to sleep by the very peace he has worked hard to create. He has given his charges a safe place to dream, and now he joins them.